This is a student paper from last year. I'm going to use it to show you how to set your paper up in MLA format. This paper is not following correct MLA format, so I will make the changes and the edits that you would make if this is what your paper looked like. I'm going to go top to bottom on this, so please double check and make sure your paper matches every point of MLA style. It's very easy to get MLA style right as long as you pay attention to the details. It would be sad to lose points for MLA style, because if you lose any style points, that just means that you weren't paying attention to the details. This is something everyone can do. The first thing I notice is that this paper is single-spaced. To make the whole paper single-spaced, I'm going to go to Edit and select All. Then I'll come over here to this icon that says Line Spacing. I'm going to click Double. The next immediate problem I notice is that even though the lines are double-spaced, there's an extra big space between the paragraphs. I don't want that. I want the paragraphs to move from one paragraph to the next, just like the lines, with just one small space. So there's still another spacing issue. Again, I go Edit, Select All, and I go back to Line Spacing. Usually, Google Docs automatically has an extra space between paragraphs. So I'm going to look here, and I'm going to say Remove Space Before Paragraph. Then I'll close it up so everything is double-spaced, and there's not an extra space between the paragraphs. It just moves from one paragraph to another in normal double-space pattern. At the top of the page, there should be a header. To insert the header, you go to Insert, and then Header and Page Number. MLA requires a page number in the top right-hand corner, so you select this option, top right. In front of your page number, you need to have your last name. So you click here in front of the number and type out your last name. This student's last name is Hansen, so I click Hansen. Then just to double check, I'm going to highlight my header and select Times New Roman 12. Sometimes it will have your header in Arial. You have to double check that it's Times New Roman 12. Click outside the header to get away from it. Then on the left side of the page, from the top, you should see your name. That's your student name. Then the professor name or the teacher name. That's Ms. Tibbetts. Then the subject. That's Language Arts 10. Language and arts are capitalized. And then the due date. Not the date you are writing the paper, but the day the paper is due. Right under the due date in the center of the page is the title. The title is the only thing that's centered in your paper. So I don't want to see a whole bunch of information centered in the page. To make sure the title is centered, you can highlight it and then come up here and click on this Center Align button. If it's to the left, it's wrong. If it's to the right, it's wrong. Has to be in the center. To make sure that everything else in your paper is left aligned, put your cursor in the middle of your paper and look and see which one of these options is highlighted. Left align should always be highlighted in the body of your paper. That's everything from the first sentence to the last needs to be left aligned. Your paragraphs need to be indented. If they're not indented, they look like this. Usually you can just click Tab in your keyboard and it will indent the first line of your paragraph. This makes it easy to tell when you move from one paragraph to the next. Notice how everything is double-spaced. There are quotation marks which suggest that this person is quoting a source. Anytime you quote or use information from a source, you must have an in-text citation. At the end of your paper, you'll have a Works Cited page. The Works Cited page is not included in your page count, so it's 2 pages not including the Works Cited page. That's your minimum. The Works Cited page comes after, and it needs to be its own page. To create its own page, click Break, and then Page Break. That was Insert, Break, Page Break. That will move the Works Cited page down to its own spot. The work cited is a title, so it needs to be in the center. The title is always the same, Works Cited. It's the last page of your paper, so it still has the header with your last name and the page number. The W is capitalized, the C is capitalized. It is not work, singular, it's works, plural. Works means the articles and books you read. Cited means that you cited them earlier in your paper. That would be your in-text citations. This works cited page needs a little bit of help. It's not formatted correctly. First of all, I don't want to see any of these blue links. So click on the link, just a normal regular left click, and then select Remove. And it will get rid of that blue link pattern. Left click, Remove. Now we need to make sure that these are in alphabetical order according to the author's last name. Let's see. Budnark, Pam. That's the last name, comma, first name. Sonnenberg, Jackie. Miller, Catherine. Problem. Miller should be before Sonnenberg. So I highlight this source and drag it up. So it's going to replace the Sonnenberg source. Click and drag, then find where the next source begins, Sonnenberg, and click Enter. Now you have Budnark, Miller, Sonnenberg. Now you look for errors. So here I notice I have an EBSCO web address followed by another web address. That's not right. So I have to look for where it came from. It came from when I highlighted Miller, and I didn't remember to get all the way to the end of the citation. So now I just click and drag it up. And I'm going to need to hit backspace so that it's not on its own line. And then another space, and there I go. Alright. The reason this is on its own line is because it's too long and it's a URL, so there are no spaces. That's okay. If I hit Enter, then that's a problem. Now I've separated it from the citation. So I have to make sure that I have not hit Enter and created its own line. Notice how it's kind of hard to tell where one citation starts and it's hard to tell where the previous citation ended. I can fix that. In fact, you have to fix it for MLA Style. So you're going to highlight all of your sources, every bit of them, and then you're going to come up here and play with this little blue triangle. This is called the left indent. You're going to drag this triangle halfway to the 1. There's a little bit of a longer line that marks the halfway point, and you put it right there. That moves everything over. Now you're going to grab this little tiny blue rectangle over the triangle, that's the first line indent, and drag it out to this part right here where the gray part of the ruler meets the white part of the ruler. So you click and drag until the numbers in the box are 0. It's right between the gray and the white. Then you let go. What I've done is pull the first line of each source out. So it's easy to tell where one citation begins, and it's easy to tell when your citation has ended. I notice now that I have a few still missing pieces. There should be no extra spaces between citations. I have an extra space here. So I put my cursor here and click backspace until I get rid of it. There's another extra space here. So again, I'm going to try and backspace it until all of the citations have equal line spacing. Notice that these citations are long. You have not only the URL or the link, but you also have the author's name, the name of the article, where the article came from, and the dates involved with that article. The point of this is so that the reader can check the validity of your sources. They can check and see if your research is solid and safe. Remember that every time you use a source in your paper, you have to include an in-text citation. The in-text citation includes the first word of the full citation. Usually that means the author's last name. That way, if somebody wants to check your work, they can flip back to the Works Cited page and easily find the citation they want to check. If you quoted Pam Budnark and they're not sure they agree with your quote, then they can come find your Works Cited page citation and look at the information you've provided about that source and decide whether it's trustworthy. Remember, database sources are always safe, but web sources have to pass the CRAP test. Alright, so bottom to top, that is the MLA format requirement. Header, last name, and page number. Notice how the page number changes automatically. Your name, my name, the class name, the due date. Title is centered. Everything else is to the left. Your entire paper should be Times New Roman and double-spaced and 12-point font. When you finish writing, the smart thing to do is click Edit, select All, and then just reselect Times New Roman, reselect 12-point font, and reselect double-spaced. This just makes sure that if there was any line of your paper where you accidentally made a mistake, it will be fixed in the end. Your title shouldn't be bigger or bold. It should be the same size as the rest of the text on the page. Your entire paper, including anything that you copy and paste from your sources, has to be Times New Roman 12. Sometimes when you copy and paste from a source, it comes in the same format that the source originally had it. You have to change the formatting to match MLA. You also have to remember to cite that source and use quotation marks when you use someone's own words directly. If you're having trouble making your paper fit this format, or you want to check and make sure that you got everything right, you can email me, submit your paper early, or come talk to me during Grizzly Ops or before and after school.